Hello fellow exiles. In this video, I want to share my Shaman shapeshifting build. This build uses Rend in Wyvern form and Rampage in Bear form to proc Herald of Ice, creating screen-wide chain explosions for map clearing. For bosses, it uses Flame Breath to trigger cast on elemental ailments with Comet at high frequency for consistent kills. To some extent, this is a build that scales both attacks and spells simultaneously. The build centers around two unique items. Crown of Eyes allows increases and reductions to spell damage to also apply to attacks. This lets us gain double value from several passive nodes that provide both attack and spell damage. Combined with Mystical Rage, which grants 2% increased spell damage per rage, we can get over 100% increased damage to both our attack and spell skills, based on Rage as our primary combat resource. Although this is a non-crit build, the damage foundation proves solid for all content. The second unique is Cine Iquo gloves. Beyond providing valuable skill speed and 20% more damage taken by immobilized enemies, it lets us immobilize enemies at 50% build-up instead of 100%. This means we can heavy stun and freeze enemies twice as easily as normal. This synergizes perfectly with Herald of Ice chain explosions, and also allows Flame Breath and Comet to immobilize tough single targets faster for better survival. If you find this kind of build analysis useful, please consider subscribing. Now let me explain how the Herald of Ice clearing works. Herald of Ice is linked with Armor Break 3, Armor Demolisher 2, and Armor Explosion support gems. When Herald of Ice procs, it hits nearby enemies. With extra physical damage and Armor Break support, Herald fully breaks enemies' armor, triggering Armor Explosion. This explosion then freezes and shatters enemies, which triggers Herald of Ice again. The cycle continues instantaneously across the screen. Visually, you see large icy explosions with some brief orange flashes indicating armor explosion triggers mixed in. For this loop to function, Herald needs extra physical damage to break armor, and Armor Explosion needs adequate extra cold damage to freeze and shatter enemies. Herald of Ice normally deals only cold damage. Our talisman provides the gained damage as extra physical damage modifier, with 2 additional passive nodes on the tree available if needed. With Armor Break 3 support, Herald of Ice can fully break armor to trigger Armor Explosion. Armor Explosion normally deals only fire damage. It needs additional cold damage to freeze and shatter mobs. This comes from Bater's Vengeance support, linked to Rend. When Rend freezes enemies, Bater's grants us a buff providing 1% of damage as extra cold damage for each rage we have. In my case, with 66 maximum rage, this becomes up to 66% extra cold damage globally, applying to all our damaging skills, including the Armor Explosion support gem. With this buff active, Armor Explosion can shatter enemies and proc Herald of Ice again, continuing the chain. In practice, we start maps at full rage by using Ferocious Roar once. Rend freezes and kills the first few enemies, activating Bater's Vengeance buff, which lasts 20 seconds by default. Once active, Rend or Rampage freeze and shatter enemies, triggering Herald. The wide Herald chain depends on area of effect. Herald of Ice has a reasonable radius, but Armor Explosion has only 1.4 meters by default. Some area clusters on the tree help, but we mainly rely on Headhunter Belt for area buffs. Map modifiers affect chaining stability. Our unique gloves make freezing easier, and we have high extra physical damage, so chains work fine even on maps with increased ailment threshold mods. However, if a map has multiple unfavorable modifiers simultaneously, like increased ailment threshold, plus monster resistances, more monster life, and monsters are armored, Herald of Ice can still trigger, but chains may not sustain fully. There is also another limitation. In Simulacrum, monsters leave no corpses and cannot be shattered, so Herald of Ice does not work against delirium monsters. For more stable chains, you may stack more extra physical damage, extra cold damage, and freeze buildup. If you have extra spirit, Overwhelming Presence aura helps by lowering monster ailment threshold. For boss fights, Flame Breath triggers Comet through cast on elemental ailments, or CoEA, at high frequency. Flame Breath has a special mechanic called Compounding Ignite. During a single channel of Flame Breath, each hit that causes Ignite replaces the existing Ignite on the monster. This is called a compound. As hits continue, compound layers stack. The ignite damage calculation depends not only on the ignite magnitude and hit damage that cause the ignite, but also on the existing number of compound stacks. You can verify this stacking behavior by allocating self-immolation passive, which reflects ignite you cause back to yourself. Flame Breath has extremely high base attack speed. In my case, it lands around 18 hits per second while channeling, rapidly stacking compounds. Even though individual hit damage is modest, the compound mechanism means that after compound stacks are high, ignite damage becomes very considerable. Now, we know that CoEA gains energy when we ignite enemies with hits. When facing bosses with their fixed 20 monster power, Flame Breath's combination of high hit rate and escalating ignite damage makes it a perfect trigger driver, allowing continuous triggering of spells socketed in CoEA. We socket Living Bomb and Comet. Living Bomb generates fire infusion, which Comet consumes to become fire-infused Comet, dealing higher damage. The two form a self-sustaining combination. For mana sustain, we need 1 leech physical damage as mana modifier on a ring. We link Oshin's Oath support gem to Flame Breath, allowing it to leech mana based on fire damage rather than physical damage. Combined with Mark of Siphoning 2 support socketed in Pounce, Flame Breath continuously leeches mana with its extremely rapid hits per second, providing nearly infinite mana to trigger Comet in boss fights. Although individual Comet damage is modest even at full rage, the dense triggers deal considerable total damage. Now let me explain how we obtain power charges and rage, our two important combat resources. Power charges are consumed by Rend for area of effect and extra lightning damage, and by Flame Breath for 50% less rage cost. During mapping, Profane Ritual, linked in Reaper's Invocation, generates power charges by consuming monster corpses. We also link Charge Profusion 2 to allow occasional generation of Frenzy and Endurance charges to fuel charge regulation for powerful buffs. We also link Enfeeble Curse in it. Beyond reducing monster damage for survivability, Enfeeble's high mana cost burns mana quickly, triggering the effect of Jikwani's Thesis Soul Core on our gloves to start energy shield recharge. Since we have mana leech on rings, we maintain mana easily. Just bind Reaper's Invocation on a convenient key and press occasionally during mapping. In boss fights, we generate power charges differently. We link Culmination 2 and Aelith's Chimes support gems to Pounce. When we strike enemies with Rend, Culmination 2 allows Pounce to accumulate combos. Each combo gives Pounce a 25% surpassing chance to generate a power charge due to Aelith's Chimes. Simply put, striking enemies with Rend at least 4 times, then using Pounce, guarantees a power charge. Brutus's Brain also links to Pounce, making the temporary summon wolves invulnerable. These wolves attract monster aggro and block projectiles. More importantly, Predator's Mark from Pounce increases damage taken by enemies based on our unit count. With 7 wolves plus our character, that totals 32% increased damage taken. Combined with 20% more damage taken by immobilized enemies from unique gloves, these are our main single-target damage amplifiers. For rage generation, we did not choose Furious Wellspring Ascendancy node. Although it is excellent and automatic rage recovery is convenient, it gives every skill a base cost of 5 rage. Our Comet in CoEA would also cost rage, making our high-frequency triggering combo unsustainable. So instead, we use Ferocious Roar. As a war cry, Ferocious Roar generates rage based on nearby enemy monster power. Roaring Cry's passive gives war cries a minimum of 10 power, letting us generate rage without enemies present. With Raging Cry support, Ferocious Roar generates 38 rage per use. Echoing Cry makes it echo twice. One cast generates 114 total rage, instantly capping our 66 maximum from 0. Now, let me explain the defensive choice for this build. We stack both armor and energy shield, rather than pure energy shield. Since our helmet and gloves use unique gear, plus Shaman's starting area on the tree clusters armor and ES together, hybrid stacking is more efficient. We also allocate Chaos Inoculation for Chaos damage immunity. Stacking armor serves multiple purposes. It efficiently utilizes the nearly 1,000 base armor provided by Bear form. While armor is not particularly good at mitigating big physical hits from certain bosses, it is effective against general mobs. The armor also applies to elemental damage modifier, also synergizes with Shaman's elemental damage mitigation strength. Our elemental defense comes from reactive growth and Avatar of Evolution ascendancy nodes. Reactive growth provides two separate effects. First, a direct 10% less elemental damage taken. Second, the adaptation mechanic. When taking elemental damage from a hit, we adapt to the highest elemental damage type in that hit. A maximum of 3 adaptations total can exist across all elements. For example, taking 3 hits with cold being the highest damage type grants 3 cold adaptations. If the next hit is primarily fire damage, we gain 1 fire adaptation and lose 1 cold adaptation, leaving us with 2 cold and 1 fire. Each adaptation provides 10% less damage taken of its matching elemental type. Here is the math. When continuously hit by the same elemental type, we get 3 adaptations matching that element. These 3 adaptations of a single element stack multiplicatively with each other. The formula is 1 minus 0.9 cubed, which equals 27.1% less damage taken. Avatar of Evolution doubles this entire adaptation effect to 54.2%. This doubled adaptation adds to the separate 10% less elemental damage taken from reactive growth. Total reduction equals 64.2% less damage taken of that specific elemental type. Avatar of Evolution also provides 15% of physical damage taken as elemental damage, split evenly across fire, cold, and lightning, which is great for our physical damage mitigation. In mapping, thanks to the buff from charge regulation, we maintain over 8,000 energy shields and around 20,000 armor. Aside from massive physical damage like from the monkey, monster damage poses little threat in most situations. Since we also have fairly high stun threshold and ailment threshold, we are unlikely to be light stunned or affected by elemental ailments. Support gem links are displayed on screen. We won't go over each link one by one. Please pause to reference the tables here or refer to the PoE and Mobalytics links in the description for details. Now, let me remind you of the skill rotation. For mapping, use Ferocious Roar to reach maximum rage. While in maximum rage, use Rend to freeze and kill a few monsters, gaining Bater's Vengeance's extra cold damage buff. Then use Rend or Rampage to trigger Herald of Ice chains for clearing. Occasionally press Reaper's Invocation for power charges. Remember to refresh Bater's buff if it expires. For Abyss Pits, either spam Rend in place or use Flame Breath to trigger Comet for quick rare clears. For bosses, use Ferocious Roar once for maximum rage and armor-breaking empowerment. Strike the boss with Rend at least 4 times, then Pounce for power charge. Then use Flame Breath to trigger Comet in high frequency for fast boss kills. Let's take a look at the gears. We use the same talisman for both weapon sets. The talisman must use the Magi talisman base as it provides rage, preferably with 3 sockets. Sakawal's Rune of the Sky, Fenimus's Rune of Agony, and Farul's Rune of Hunts socketed here. Since Wisdom of the Magi ascendancy node is allocated, we benefit from the extra bonded stats. Prefixes need increased physical damage, added flat physical damage, and gained extra physical damage. This gained extra physical damage modifier is critical for allowing Herald of Ice to break armor. Suffixes require +5 to levels of all attack skills, attack speed, and chance to gain onslaught modifiers. Crown of Eye's helmet needs to be corrupted with 2 sockets. Zamoto's Soul Core of Ferocity provides +4 to maximum rage, and Idol of Ishtar grants cost and meta skill reservation efficiency. Body armor uses an armor and energy shield hybrid base. Prioritize the armor also applies to elemental damage modifier and resistances. The build requires at least 137 spirit, calculated with Diala's desire support in CoEA. Amulet prefix wants at least a tier 3 spirit modifier, along with increased maximum energy shield and increased global defense. Suffixes need resistance and attributes. Budget permitting, look for +1 to levels of all skills, or +3 to levels of all melee skills modifiers, though this is not necessary. Both rings need added flat physical damage and flat cold damage in prefixes. One ring must have a life regeneration modifier. The other ring must have a mana leech modifier. Life regeneration is mandatory to prevent death from life loss caused by Berserk. Even though we only have one maximum life due to Chaos Inoculation, percentage life loss in PoE 2 affects decimal places. Without life regeneration, we will die from life loss over time. For gloves, we need Cine Iquo corrupted with 2 sockets, Socket Idol of Sirius for attack speed, and Jiquani's Thesis Soul Core for the energy shield recharge mechanic. Headhunter Belt is best in slot for the potential attack speed, movement speed, and area of effect buffs. The attributes are also welcomed. For boots, go with a pure energy shield base with movement speed and fill resistances. Now let's quickly go over the passive tree. You may also refer to the POB or Mobalytics for details. The character demo here is at level 97, and it is recommended you use this tree at level 92 or above. For Ascendancy nodes, we take Wisdom of the Magi, Druidic Champion, Reactive Growth, and Avatar of Evolution. We use Weapon Set 1 for the Flame Breath and Comet Triggering Combo for single target, and Weapon Set 2 for Rend and Rampage. In the starting area, we allocate all the major Armour and ES nodes. Iron Slippers is critical for Armour. The Sigils clusters on Weapon Set 1, and AoE nodes on Weapon Set 2. Take Primal Rage cluster for plus 18 to maximum rage. In this dual socket, we have a controlled Metamorphosis diamond with medium range, but medium-small also works. Allocated in your face on Weapon Set 2, then Projectile Bulwark, Prism Guard, and Vengeful Fury on the main tree. Allocate Tribal Fury for Rend to deal splash damage and also Roaring Cries, both on Weapon Set 2. Back this way, Lasting Incantation and Wasting Casts on Weapon Set 1. This jewel socket holds a Heroic Tragedy jewel of Varana variant, turning the nearby Zealot's Oath Keystone to Black Scythe Training, giving 1% increased ES per 2 strength. We access Mystical Rage with Amulet Anointment. Take Blessing of the Moon on Weapon Set 2 for prolonged skill effect duration. This jewel socket holds a Heart of the Well diamond, with gained extra cold damage, increased ES from body armor, and additional stun and ailment threshold. In the center, grab Inescapable Cold and Endless Blizzard. Note that Glaciation is on Weapon Set 1. Then we skip this jewel socket and go to the right side to allocate Chaos Inoculation. We have a From Nothing diamond socketed nearby for Chaos Inoculation, allowing access to these nodes within the circle without pathing. Note that Invocated Efficiency is on Weapon Set 1, and Chakra of Elements on Weapon Set 2. That concludes the build. Playing Shaman has been genuinely enjoyable. The Ascendancy provides a comprehensive toolkit that handles both offense and defense well. Adaptation for elemental mitigation, bonded stats, and the trade-offs involved in Ascendancy nodes all feel pretty well thought out and cohesive. However, the Druid area of the passive tree feels underdeveloped. There are very few unique mechanic nodes that really leverage what makes shapeshifting or Shaman identity special. Most of the pathing offers generic stats rather than interesting build-defining choices. Shaman itself is well designed, but the surrounding tree does not give it much to work with just yet. While the damage of this build does not match current metacaster builds, the potential is there, the Ascendancy is solid. As the Druid area becomes more refined in future leagues, Shaman should have significantly more options and power to build on this foundation. If you have any questions or thoughts, leave them in the comments. Please consider liking and subscribing. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.